Hallo, hi Violet, goeienaand. Hallo almal. So ja, dankie dat julle hier is by Seagull se eerste webinar. Ek is opgewonde oor Seagull se webinar en ek is opgewonde om vrae te antwoord en te kyk ja, wat ek met julle kan deel oor Tanzanië. So baie van julle weet dat Tanzanië my hartland is. So ek deel graag so 'n bietjie meer van Tanzanië, meer oor wat die migrasie is, hoe dit werk, wat dit behels, oor ons safari, so 'n tipiese dag op 'n safari saam met Seagull lyk. En ja, dan na die tyd sal daar tyd wees vir vrae as jy vra iets. So obviously, this is the migration. I think that's pretty obvious, but I do want to draw your attention to the pattern of the migrating herds, or just to the fact that they're all in a row, moving in a certain direction. Because in a while, when I start explaining the migration, it'll be really important for you to remember this photograph. And it's the same with this photograph. That's obviously the migration. And I want you to also take note of the wildebeest and how they are scattered across the plain on this photo. Also, if you look at the rain in the background, it's important that you look at that because it's also going to be part of the explanation that I'd like to share with you about the migration in a short while. Okay. This is not the migration. This is actually Ngorongoro crater. It's one of the lakes in the crater, and these gnu or these wildebeest are actually residents. So yes, some of them might be migrating, but mostly they will be staying inside the crater. But it's definitely one of the sites that we will see inside the crater. I can't promise you the exact same number of flamingos, but we will see the crater. Okay, and again, a picture of the migration. This is another way that we can see the migration potentially. So just take note of that. Okay, so let's get into the migration. The first question that people normally ask me is, are we going to see the migration? And when is the best time? Well, then the second question is, when is the best time to go? So let's start with, am I going to see the migration? Yes, the chances are really good that you will see the migration because we plan our tours around the migration. We want our guests to see the migration. And along with the guides, we work really, really hard to ensure that this does happen. It's not an exact science. These are wild animals. We cannot predict anything, but we do follow our instincts. We follow the natural patterns, and eventually our groups do see the migration. Okay, so I'd like to start with explaining what the migration actually is, because there's a massive misconception that the migration is the crossing of the riverside. So if you look at the pattern of the migration, now this is not 100% accurate. It's just an indication of the pattern of the movement. You'll see that there are rivers, or there's a river there, and it's not the only river. And there's one there and one there. Okay, so these are places where river crossings occur. It does not mean that that's the only time that the animals migrate. It's not a question of they crossing a river to get a stamp and that's when they've migrated. This is just a part of their journey. Okay, so why do they migrate? They migrate because they want food and they want water. And in the process to get to the food and water, they cross the rivers. And this entire circular movement is the migration. Okay, so it's not an immigration where they cross the river or an immigration where they come back this way. It's a migration. It's a continuous circle. So they're nomadic, basically. Also, if you refer back to the photo that I showed you earlier, you'll see when I showed you the rain in the background. The animals move when it rains. So what has happened to me in the past is I could be in this area, which is the Ndutu area, the southern plains of the Serengeti, and the migrating herds might not be there. But then we see that it's raining in this area, for instance. And truth, Bob, if we drive in that direction tomorrow, the animals will be there. And then we can continue with our safari. And the rain, it might start drying up here. It could rain here in a couple of days. And on our way back, the animals might be in this area again. Okay, so that's just an indication of how the animals actually move for food and for water. And so when someone says to you, but it's not a good time because it's raining, yes, it's not ideal because sometimes we might get stuck, but we also want the rain because the rain is an indication of where the animals will be, where the food will be, and where they will be moving. Want die diere gaan agter die kos en die water aan. Okay. Ek gaan gou ophou om my skerm te deel en dan wil ek net nog gesels oor hierdie hele migrasie storie en dan sal ek nou weer met almal gesels. Die ander ding of nou weer met almal my skerm deel. Die ander ding wat baie belangrik is om te onthou is dat die diere nie net so in 'n sirkel beweeg nie. Hulle sal vandag in die Ndutu area wees en dan sal hulle nou môre daai kant toe gaan en soos ek gesê het, hulle kan terugkom. Maar hierdie hele proses beteken nie hulle stap die hele tyd in 'n ry, soos op die heel eerste foto nie, of hulle hardloop die hele tyd nie. Partykeer is hulle scattered oor die hele plein en ek kan nie vir jou sê op watter dag jy hulle hoe gaan sien nie. So partykeer is hulle scattered, partykeer stap hulle in rye en partykeer jaag hulle. Ander kere sien jy weer hoe hulle bymekaar kom, hoe hulle gather voordat hulle in 'n ry stap. So dis alles deel van die migrasieproses. Dis die gathering, die rye waar hulle stap en dan sit weer die scattering terwyl hulle wy en dan reën dit en hulle gather weer, hulle stap weer in 'n ry en hulle scatter weer. En so gaan dit op en af die hele jaar deur vir die migrasie. So migration, it's a circular route and it's the crossing of rivers is only a part of it. En dis nie 'n geval van as ek vandag hier was en ek het môre so intoe getrek, ek gaan nie weer terug hiernatoe nie. Dis eers 'n proses tot die kos in daai area op is, dan gaan hulle weer na die volgende plek toe en dis weer 'n proses tot die kos daar op is en dan gaan hulle weer na die volgende plek toe. En so dis vir my regtig belangrik dat mense dit verstaan van die migrasie. Jy gaan nie 'n crossing oral sien nie. Jy gaan nie hulle altyd in 'n ry sien nie. Jy gaan hulle nie altyd scattered op die plein sien nie. Daar's elemente van die migrasie wat 'n mens gaan beleef. Ja, dan is die volgende vraag gewoonlik, what is the best time of the year to go? But that's also a bit of a conundrum because there's no such thing, in my opinion, as the best time of the year to go. It's a question of when can you go? And if you can go at that time of the year, where you should go. If we look at this slide, you'll see it's the circular movement of the animals, right? Maybe I should go back. If we look at this slide, this is the area called Ndutu, where our tours stay, sometimes for one night and sometimes for 2 nights. Again, this is determined by the time of the year that we go. So if historically speaking, it's a good time to be in the Southern Plains in terms of the migration, we stay there longer. Otherwise, we only stay there for one night because Ndutu still has a lot of other things to offer. So the animals are in this area normally from late December till about April, but they can stay here longer if there's rains. Okay. And then they come to the central area of the Serengeti. It's called the Serenera area. Sorry, there we go, in that area. And they're there for a couple of months. They also start heading into the Western Corridor, which is here, and making their way up into the north to the Masai Mara. And some of them go this way as well. And then later on, when they return, starting in about September, October, they come back either this way or that way, and they make their way back to Ndutu. Okay, so that's a bit of a funny picture, but that's more or less the pattern of the migration with the months explained to you as well. Okay, so what I'm telling you is there's no such thing as a good time. If you want to see the crossing, well, then you have to be in this area, that area, or this area during the time that they normally cross, which we suggest is early August, very late July, early August, September, or August, September. If you want to see the calving, for instance, when they're calving, then you should be in the Ndutu area in February. Okay. If you're going to go in May, then it's a good time to be there as well. So bearing all of that in mind, Seagull splits our time between Ndutu and the Serenera area so that we can give our guests the best possible opportunity to see the migration. Because if we're in the Ndutu area and the migration pattern is later than usual, then they will still be around this area and it gives us time to explore this area. If we are, if the pattern is maybe earlier than usual, then they'll move to the Serenera Valley, this area earlier, but we will spend time there so we can explore there. And every day we go in search of these herds based on what we've heard from our colleagues, what we've seen the weather pattern do, etc. Net om 'n staaltjie met julle te vertel, ek was eendag, of vir julle te vertel, ek was eendag met 'n groep vriende gewees, maar daar was baie druk op my van die begin af dat ek vir hierdie groep immigrasie moet wys. En ek was nou al verskriklik baie kere in Tanzanië en vir jare al in Tanzanië en in die Serengeti, en met hierdie groep kon ek net om een of ander rede nie die diere kry nie. En nie een van die gidse, geen van ons kollegas, nêrens in die veld as ons mekaar ontmoet het, kon die mense vir my sê waar die diere is nie, of vir my en die gidse sê waar die diere is nie. Ek werk nie alleen nie, my gidse werk saam, of ek werk eerder saam met hulle. Maar ons kon hulle nie kry nie. En niemand het geweet waar hierdie diere is nie. En die vorige aand het ons reën gesien, en ek en die gidse het by mekaar gekom, en ons het vir mekaar gesê, ons gaan waar die reën is. En daar was 5 van ons, daar was 4 gidse en ek. En op die einde van die dag was ek die deciding factor. Van 2 van die gidse het gesê, nee, ons gaan nie so intoe ry nie. En die 2 van die ander gidse het gesê, nee, ons gaan so intoe ry. En toe moes ek besluit, gaan ons die kans vat of nie. En dit gaan nie oor my wat great is nie, maar onthou ek het vir julle gesê, dit het gereën daar. En toe besluit ons, okay, ons gaan waar die reën was. En ons ry toe, en dit was die laaste dag vir die groep immigrasie kon sien. En lo and behold, toe kry ons hulle. So, en hoekom? Want ons het gegaan waar die reën was. So ja, dis maar net 'n staaltjie van immigrasie en van hoe dit werk. So ek wou dit graag met julle gedeel het. Okay. So dit was 'n verduideliking van immigrasie. I also thought that it's important for me to share with you what kind of tours we have available, because I do realize that Seagull has more tours than maybe some of the others that you've looked at. So as I've already mentioned, we share our time between Ndutu and the central Serengeti based on the month that we're traveling in. And then our northern Serengeti tour is much later in the season, and that's when we go up north to the rivers where we see the river crossing, hopefully. Okay. So firstly, as you can see, we've got our classic tours. Now, this is the original tour that most of the operators in South Africa offer. It starts with a night in Arusha after arrival. And then what we do a little bit differently is we've got one night in Tarangire National Park, which is famous for its elephants. We've done Tarangire and replaced Manyara with Tarangire because the Rift Valley lakes have started flooding to such an extent that Lake Manyara National Park has become smaller. The navigable area of Lake Manyara National Park has become so much smaller. The lake has become so much deeper that the flamingos just don't go there in such numbers anymore. In fact, I can't remember when last I've seen a flamingo there. A lot of the parts where we used to drive is now underwater. So we've replaced Lake Manyara National Park with Tarangire, which is beautiful. It's something different. And it's really a very special landscape. So we spend one night there. Then all of our tours, except the northern Serengeti, spend a night in Ndutu, which is in the southern Serengeti, which I've explained to you on the previous map. And then we go to the central Serengeti. Okay, so that happens across the board with our classic, our Pole Pole, and our Hakuna Matata. And then after that, we spend 2 nights at the crater. So all of them have one night Arusha, one night Tarangire, 1 or 2 nights at Ndutu, and then 2, 3, or 4 nights in the central Serengeti, and 2 nights at Ngorongoro Crater. So the big difference between classic, Pole Pole, and Hakuna Matata is the number of nights that we spend in the central Serengeti or in the Serengeti as a whole. Classic spends 3 nights, Pole Pole 4 nights, and then Hakuna Matata has 5 nights in the Serengeti in total. So that's a really extended tour. So the question normally arises, how do I choose between classic, Pole Pole, and Hakuna Matata? Well, that's a case of budget, time available to you, and then also whether or not you want a faster pace tour or a little bit of a slower pace tour, because that 1 extra night or 2 extra nights in the Serengeti does make a difference. Okay. There's nothing wrong with classic. Everyone offers it. It's the way we all started Tanzania. I've just realized with time that some people would really like more time in the Serengeti, so I've added more nights. Okay, so that's the big difference between classic, Pole Pole, and Hakuna Matata. In terms of the northern Serengeti tour, it's different because of the accommodation that we use. The other 3 tours all use the same accommodation standard. Everything is the same except the nights in the Serengeti. So northern Serengeti, we just have different accommodation standard, and the itinerary looks different. We go up north to see the crossing, where on the other 3 tours, we don't see the crossings, we see the animals on the plains. Okay. I'm going to move on. There we go. Another question we often get is what the vehicles look like. So when I say that they've got a pop-up roof, that is what I'm referring to. You can see that the roof pops up literally on arms that lock. And when we're stationary, when we're not moving, you're welcome to stand up. If you want to stand on the seat, you can do so too, as long as you take your shoes off. And we stand up and we have a better view for photographs or for simply just enjoying the bush. Every single person has a window. Sorry, too fast. Okay. Every single person has a window seat in the safari vehicle, and there's a small fridge. So if you want to put in 1 or 2 beers or tonics for your gin, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay. I want to draw your attention to the luggage hatch. You'll see that it's really, really small, so I'll talk about that in a while. Okay. Right. These are the first batch of hotels that I'm going to show you are the hotels that we use on Classic, Pole Pole, and Hakuna Matata. Okay. These are really nice luxury lodges and hotels, well, mostly lodges. They are of a superior standard, and they have been tried and tested. We really enjoy going there. So the first one is Arusha Coffee Lodge. It's just outside of Arusha, as the name suggests, on a coffee plantation. It belongs to the Elawana collection, which is a really elevated brand. And yes, it's just a beautiful feeling. Okay. This is the Tarangire Sopa Lodge. It's a very popular lodge in Tarangire. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing that with all our guests. But as you can see, again, a beautiful property of high standard. Okay. This is the tented lodge that we use at Ndutu. There's a bathroom attached to the tent. So although there is an outside shower, indoor shower, 'n spoel toilet, 2 wasbakke, so dis regtig 'n baie nice property. The only thing here is that the water is quite hard, so we do not suggest that you brush your teeth with it, but please use bottled water. But I guess that's a rule that you should follow wherever in the world you're traveling to. So this is Ndutu, and at the back of the bottom photo, let me do annotation again, you can see Lake Ndutu over there. What's really nice about this lodge is at night, you can actually literally hear the zebra sometimes walking next to the tent. We've had lions sleeping in the camp, so it's absolutely beautiful. Okay. Ai, tog. Ek nou so kan sit. There we go. Okay. This is Kubu Kubu Tented Lodge. I'm sorry, let me just get rid of this blue line. Okay, that's better. Okay. This is Kubu Kubu Tented Lodge. It's in the central Serengeti. I've stood on that stoop deck next to the pool and actually seen the migrating herds walk straight past me. So it's a really beautiful lodge. What's a very nice added extra bonus at this property is that drinks are included. So that really adds to the value. And that's one of the reasons why our tours might seem more expensive. They're not really more expensive if you look at the quality of the accommodation that we use and what's included. It's a really great value add if you consider what the cost of alcohol, wine, and things like that is in Tanzania, and especially at these lodges. Firstly, because of the import tax that they have to pay, and secondly, because of the distance that they actually need to travel to bring in these goods to the lodges. Okay. And if we're not staying at Kubu Kubu Tented Lodge, we will be staying at Lahia Tented Lodge, a sister property. Again, wine and drinks is included at this property as well. Another lovely value add and another very good location in terms of getting to the migration. Okay. So this is Ngorongoro Rim Lodge. It's built on the rim of the crater. It overlooks the crater. It's a brand new lodge. It's the sister property to Ndutu Luxury Tented Lodge. And I know the service delivery that one gets there, and I'm really excited that we get to use this. Okay. The properties that I've mentioned before, in other words, Arusha Coffee Lodge, Tarangire Sopa Lodge, Ndutu Tented Lodge, Kubu Kubu Lahia, and Goro Rim Lodge, are all part of the classic tour, Pole Pole and Hakuna Matata. The properties that I'm going to show you now are part of the Northern Tented Safari. So the first one is the Bougainvillea Safari Lodge, which is just outside Karatu, which is an agricultural town in the shadows of the Ngorongoro crater rim. And then these are the properties we use in the central and northern part of the Serengeti, which is called Serengeti and Mara Katikati. So you'll see that it's not that luxurious lodge feel. It's far more of a safari tented feel. But you've still got a bathroom attached to your tent, but it's a bucket shower. So a completely different, as the children will say, vibe. But a lovely African experience if you're into that kind of feeling. Okay. So, ladies, this is the kind of luggage that you need to take with you. It doesn't need to be as small as this one looks in the photo, but you need to have a duffel bag, which is soft. Because you'll remember that I showed you the luggage storage area, the luggage space on the Land Cruiser. So it's very small. And if we have to pack the luggage for 6 people, plus a guide, plus water for the safari, we run out of space very, very quickly. So you cannot take your large Samsonite or large hard-sided Delsey suitcase with you. You need to take a soft-sided duffel bag. This is just an example. It does not have to look like this. Okay. And then just a quick, I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a while, but I thought to share with you, what to wear. So I think the most important thing that I want to highlight here is that it's not a good idea during the day to wear navy, dark blue, black, purple, anything like that. It attracts the tsetse flies. And believe me, you do not want to be bitten by a tsetse fly. Not because of sleeping sickness, but because it just hurts like anything. And if you're like me and you're allergic to insect bites, then it's a really ugly experience. So yeah, during the day, no dark blues, no black, no purple, anything dark like that. But at night, you can wear whatever you want to. That tsetse flies sleep at night. mostly. There we go. Okay. So there are a couple of things that I just thought I'd mention to you before I answer questions. You might have seen that we have a special at the moment, the Friends on Safari offer. If you get 5 friends to go on safari with you, you as the 6th person get 10,000 Rand discount. And this is only valid on the Pole Pole and the Hakuna Matata tours.